Everybody, we're back with another Intel update, one per week. This week we want to do a very special one that's focused exclusively on the bill that was passed through Congress last week, signed into law last week. That's President Trump's big BBB, the beautiful big bill that was passed in the dead of night through both the Senate and the House. We want to make sure you understand the implications for you as Michiganders, as Americans, because some of the timelines are this year. So we're going to go through the major muscle movements of this bill, help you understand how you can be prepared for what are some pretty significant changes for hundreds of thousands of Michiganders. So first, I want to start with the big muscle movement here, which is healthcare. There's no way around it. This bill does affect probably every single American's healthcare. Either you're at risk of losing your healthcare, or your healthcare is projected to get more expensive over the next couple of years. So let me walk you through it. First of all, for anyone in Michigan on the ACA or Obamacare or the marketplace, what we call the healthcare marketplace, that's 516,000 Michiganders who are on Obamacare. This program is changing. As soon as this year, November of this year, 2025, we're going to have open season again for signing up for healthcare, and you will see, many people will see, increases in prices for the ACA. This disproportionately affects people who are living above the poverty line but aren't super wealthy. So imagine a family of four that's making $129,000 a year and you're on the ACA marketplace right now. We're projecting that your health care could go up by $5,500 in next year when you go to sign up. A family of two 60-year-olds who are living in Lansing, Michigan, making $82,000 a year combined, are scheduled to have their rate go up by $13,000, a significant increase over what they've been paying for the previous year. So we've put in the comments, right in the first comment, we're going to put a calculator. If you're on the ACA, you can put in how much you make, how many people in your family, and figure out how this bill is going to affect your healthcare prices. So that's the most immediate one. That's happening this year, starting in November when open season for signing up for the ACA starts again, but also once you start paying for your new plan, January 1st, 2026. So I also want to flag that there's additional barriers for people who are on the ACA, particularly when it comes to renewing your plan. Most of us are used to being on a plan and it automatically renews every year unless you go in during open season and do something about it. You do not renew your plan affirmatively. Go in and re-sign up every single year. You will be kicked off the ACA automatically. This is a really big change. This could really catch people by surprise. You know, you're going in to have a baby and suddenly you realize you didn't sign up for your insurance again. So again, every single person on the ACA should understand what this bill is going to do for you, or frankly, not do for you. Again, this is all part of the administration's long-term plan to go after the ACA. They tried to do it in President Trump's first term. They weren't successful. They found it was unpopular. Now they've found different ways to attack the ACA to make fewer and fewer people sign up for the ACA. That is part of their plan, and this bill really put in black and white ways that they are attacking people on the ACA. So please understand what it means for you and your family. So another way that this plan is going to deeply affect everyone's health care is on the issue of Medicaid. Now, everyone knows the word Medicaid, but in Michigan, the plan is called the Healthy Michigan Plan. If you are on the Healthy Michigan Plan, you are on Medicaid, right? And this plan, this bill that was just signed, deeply affects your coverage. It happens over the next couple of years. January 1st, 2027, that is the deadline where all states have to be imposing additional work requirements on Medicaid recipients. Additionally, people with children that are 14 and up are going to have to be working. You know, even if childcare is still an issue, you have to be working. Those work requirements you are going to have to prove twice a year. Okay, that is a lot of work, and that is purposeful. Again, that is done so that hopefully people forget to sign up. They forget to go prove that they're working. They get too busy. They have too much going on. There is a purposeful reason that they are doing that, and that's to quietly move people off of the Michigan Healthy Families Program as opposed to just allowing people, again, to go a full year on that health care. So I would watch this space. The other piece of this that's going to change in 2027 is how much money our hospitals are getting in general, matching funds that our hospitals are getting in Michigan from Medicaid. Now, right now, the Michigan Hospital Association just put out a statement that we think the new bill is going to probably short Michigan $6 billion to our hospitals over the next 10 years. And that's a huge number, hard to get your head around. But I think the important thing is our hospitals are already sending out flares that they're going to have to cut back on services. They may have to close departments. And particularly for our rural communities, I'm very worried about rural hospitals potentially having to close because of those funds that won't be coming in from the federal government. So our hospital system is going to be under increasing stress in the state of Michigan. And some of them are already pretty stressed as it is. Another way that this bill affects healthcare is healthcare particularly for women and for family planning. This bill defunded Planned Parenthood, right? If folks know what Planned Parenthood is, I know it's controversial. I'm not talking about their provision of abortions. I'm talking about their provision of healthcare for women, family planning, basic gynecological exams, all kinds of other support and healthcare that goes to women that isn't abortion. The entire Planned Parenthood was defunded. Now it's in court, it's going back and forth, but a lot of young women in particular get basic health care from these centers across the country or across our state, and Planned Parenthood is in court right now on being defunded. Another way that this bill is going to affect our healthcare writ large in Michigan is on what are called federally qualified health centers. There are health centers all across Michigan who treat the most needy, who really depend on Medicaid dollars to exist. I visited a number of these in the past first 6 months that I've been a senator. These are places that I am really very concerned about them having to close. So just another place where people get their health care. All in all, in sum, this bill changes the face of healthcare in the state of Michigan and across the country. And of course, we know that if we have less people who are insured walking into ERs, if we have less people who are insured trying to get care when there's a car accident or they break an arm or they have to have a baby, the hospitals eat those costs. And how do they make up those costs? They charge more to people with private insurance. This is the other shoe to drop from this big bill, right? You may say to yourself, I'm not on Medicaid. I'm not on the Michigan version of Medicaid. How does this affect me? I'm not on the ACA, so how does this affect me? Well, it affects you because even if you have the best insurance in the state of Michigan, you are almost certainly going to see your prices go up starting January 1st because all the healthcare systems are being charged more, all the hospitals are having to cover more costs. So I would watch your bills very vigorously starting January 1st and whether you're going to get an announcement this fall about the price of your healthcare going up. If you feel like your healthcare is going up, you shouldn't be surprised, and you should know exactly why that came to be. And I don't think there's anyone in America who feels like we are paying too little for our health care. The Trump administration purposely made all these devastating Medicaid cuts come just after the November 2026 midterm elections, right? There's big elections that month. They could flip the House, flip the Senate, and the Trump administration doesn't want the results of their policy on health care to impact their chances of winning the election in November of 2026. It's very cynical. It's done on purpose. It's meant to make you pay later, but still vote for the president's party in November of 2026. And I just want to put that out there, that they know what these Medicaid cuts, these healthcare cuts are going to do to constituents, and they don't want to pay the price for it. So had to put that out there. It's cynical, it's purposeful, and it's meant to make you vote for them now, pay later. So another big area that this bill covers and changes is SNAP, or what most people think of as food stamps. In Michigan, bridge cards. There's always been work requirements on SNAP, always, but now we extend who has to be working. So that particularly means the older set, so 54 to 64, you also have to be working 20 hours a week or 80 hours a month. And parents of children 14 to 18 also have to be working 20 hours a week, 80 hours per month. You have to prove that every single month, which is of course onerous, which is meant again to kick people off and to catch them in not re-upping their assistance. But this has big implications for food security in Michigan. Obviously, some people who are also on food stamps are also on Medicaid. So the double whammy that's happening for a lot of our most needy in the state is going to be a real factor. And this is going to start showing up in our supermarkets, in our stores like Meijer's. You're going to start to see people desperate and looking for help in some way because their assistance is maybe not there as they expected it. Another area this bill deeply affects is student loans. Now, we'll go into this more in a newsletter, but I would just say it caps student loan options. The people who are scheduled to go off to college or go off to graduate school this fall, so fall of 2025, nothing's going to change. The change is going to come in fall of 2026. So any young person who's a junior in high school right now should be thinking and understanding deeply how this bill fundamentally changes student loans in the United States. Caps Parent Plus loans at $20,000 a year. Parents were often able to help their young person out. It now caps how much help that they can give. And it also changes the amount of money you can take a loan for if you're going on to a specialty, if you're going to do grad school, if you're going to become a lawyer or a doctor. The ones we're most concerned about are on those doctors. We already have a doctor shortage across the country and in Michigan, and this bill caps the amount of money that you can take out as a loan at $200,000. Sounds huge, but the truth is medical school has become incredibly expensive. So we're already hearing from potential doctors who are saying, you know, I'm going to hold off and see if I can afford going to school. I'm not sure I can take on all that loan debt. So that student loan situation is definitely something to watch, something to educate yourself about, and make sure you know, especially for our parents and students heading off in fall of 2026. Okay, let's talk about what this bill does on the topic of energy. It makes some pretty big decisions on the future of energy in the United States that will affect your pocketbook and will affect our national security. First and foremost, on September 30th, 2025, so this September 30th, they're going to end the EV tax credit for buying an electric vehicle. So if you were in the market to buy an electric vehicle, if that's something you were looking for, the $7,500 EV tax credit that you got when you bought an EV is ending. So I would get to a dealer as soon as possible if that's of interest to you. We are also ending the tax credits for big wind and solar projects. We had invested a lot in trying to catch up to the big dogs when it comes to alternative energy, which is China. China is just eating our lunch on investment in alternative energy. Solar, wind, they're doing more than almost all countries combined. And the United States knew that we were really far behind and we needed to catch up. So we incentivized groups to build big solar, big wind projects, and most people in Michigan know where some of these big wind and big solar projects are. Most of those projects that are in train are going to lose some of those tax incentives. Now, what that means is it's going to become much more expensive to build solar and wind and other kinds of alternative energy in the United States. It can still happen. It's just going to be much more expensive. It's going to be much more expensive to buy that energy when it comes online into our grid. So the reason why I talk about this issue as a cost issue is because when demand for energy is going up and supply is stuck down here and we're not surging supply, you know what happens. The cost of our electricity is going up and up and up, and that's only going to go up into the future because we know as a society we're just using more energy generally. Now, the reason I think of this as not only a cost issue but a national security issue is because of what China is doing. China is eating our lunch when it comes to investing in alternative energy. They're doing more than almost every country combined in wind and solar, in electric vehicle batteries, all kinds of alternative energy. And the decision in this bill was that we're okay with that. We're fine if China eats our lunch on that. We don't want to compete on those things. And instead of taking an all of the above approach, it is clear that the authors of this bill and those who voted for it, they just care about saying, well, solar and wind is woke energy, right? It's woke, so we don't like it. That's a completely boneheaded move. We want all the energy. We want all kinds of energy. We want it to be diverse. And this will leave us with either more costs or more of a risk and a gap with our competitor in China. Okay, lastly, This bill and the cuts that were in this bill were all to pay for the tax breaks also written in this bill. And it's important to realize that by far, this bill preferences the most wealthy tax brackets, period. Just to give you an example, if you make $4 million a year, you will get a tax refund of $390,000. That's just to give you a sense of, and that's a permanent tax cut. It lasts in perpetuity. Now, there were a few temporary tax cuts that were given that should help people. No tax on tips. It expires in 2028, so it's a very short-term, couple of years thing. It's not even clear exactly who will qualify, but that is something that's in this bill, and you should watch closely if you make tips. No tax on overtime. It's overtime up to $100,000, but it also expires in 2028. So it's a short-term program while the permanent tax cuts went to the most wealthy in America. Social Security is still taxed, but they're making a kind of a bonus check for those who are 65 and above for the next couple of years. That's very real, but again, just for a couple of years, unlike the permanent tax cuts, which go to the wealthiest in our country. So I wanted to give you a quick update on what we passed last week. Much of it was written in real time. Many of the senators and the congressmen who voted for this bill were voting for it without knowing what the final details actually looked like. We're still combing through the 1,000+ pages to make sure we haven't missed anything since it was done in the dead of night. But we want to make sure you have what you need to understand how this bill affects you, your health care, your taxes, your food security, your energy, because those are big things that Americans care about. So for the next couple of weeks, we'll be going through what's actually in this bill.